I took LSD. Oh my God. I waited, I waited 69 years of my life to be able to say that statement. I took LSD. Yeah, in this episode, I'm gonna explain why I did, what it was like, and a lot more. Will I continue? I got a lot for you today. So, welcome to Microdose U. I am Dr. Dave. So, first of all, I will say this: I microdosed LSD. I did not take a large dose at all because this is Microdose U, and this is all about microdosing and how microdosing psychedelics and maybe more can improve your life in a tremendous way. So, this happened about a week and a half ago. First time ever in my life. LSD. Why did I do it? I think the main reason was curiosity. I grew up I went to high school in the late 60s and early 70s, and this was the thing that so many people were doing, whether they were just regular old people or artists or, whoever. LSD was the thing. I always stayed away from it. I never touched it. I was a pretty straight guy growing up. The only thing I really did was, a little bit of cannabis here and there. And I got on with my professional life. These days, and especially after having microdosed psilocybin for close to 4 years now, for mainly the reason I started was for mental health issues, um, anxiety, depression, PTSD. I've told you the whole story. I was, and I've gotten some fantastic results. My life has changed from microdosing psychedelic drugs. Totally changed the way I see things, the way I feel every day, just for the better, for zero question, 100% on that. But I was very curious about what LSD would feel like compared to mushrooms. And again, microdosing. I will say, so just to give you an idea, so LSD is a very powerful substance, and you need like a tiny, almost like a speck, especially for a microdose. So I was microdosing, and I've done it a handful of times for sure already. And I would say somewhere in the range of 8 to 16 micrograms. And if you look that up, that's really tiny. But let's talk about a few things about LSD and my microdosing experience. Again, I did it because I was curious and I wanted to feel the difference and see if there was a difference between LSD and psilocybin. So I'll get right into that one right now. So as far as I feel there is a difference. LSD is and was really pleasant. If I had to say, if I had to give you a difference, I would say it feels milder. It feels smoother. I don't know if there's like the appropriate word in the English language or any language to like explain or describe, but milder, smoother is probably, again, at least for a microdose, is probably, there's probably accurate descriptors in there. I really enjoyed the experience each time. And I would say I felt the experience longer than a mushroom microdose. It felt like it was with me. If let's say I microdosed in the morning with LSD, it felt like it was with me a good part of the day. And so again, microdose, can you feel it? When I first started podcasting about microdosing psilocybin, I would always say, well, you really can't feel anything. You shouldn't feel anything. I don't think that's accurate anymore. I don't really believe that. I think you should feel like a little something. It doesn't mean you should be high. It doesn't mean you should be stoned. It doesn't mean you should be not able to function. It doesn't mean that you should be tripping. But it means that you should feel like a little something going on, and that little something is a very positive something. So again, it's very difficult to put into words like what it feels like, but I absolutely could tell it was there, 100% could tell it was there, and I felt it was a very positive feeling. And I even noticed the following day, one of the days I had to go on like a fairly long drive, and I felt just like very confident, like zero anxiety anywhere. I just felt really, really good. And so my initial impression of the LSD microdose is very positive, extremely positive. I've done it one or two times combined with my acupuncture. And the last time I did it, and I'm going again today, but the last time I did it with my acupuncture, I felt I had the best, I'm going to call it the best acupuncture trip I've ever had. I just laid back. I had the needles in me. I was listening to my music with my earbuds in it. It was just a wonderful, wonderful trip. And again, it doesn't impair the your functioning at all. Like afterwards, I was able to get in my car and very, very confidently drive home. Again, it's not a feeling of being high or stoned or anything like that. Like nothing like alcohol whatsoever. And I don't really drink much alcohol. Alcohol to me is not a positive drug in any way, shape, or form, in my opinion. It's just for me, just my opinion. I really stay away from it. Occasionally, maybe a couple times a month, I'll have a little drink of sake with dinner, but that's the extent of my alcohol. I just don't think it's beneficial for me in any way. But getting back to the microdose of LSD. I had a really interesting experience yesterday when I take my Japanese lessons several times per week, and it's a live, like a live video Zoom type meeting with my teacher in Japan. And now again, I'm not saying this is because of the LSD. I'm not giving it all the credit, but she did make a comment to me yesterday during our session, and she told me that she feels like I'm speaking like a native. Now, again, I've got a long way to go in my Japanese, and I'm not really conversational. I mean, I know a decent amount, but I can't really, I wouldn't be able to hold a conversation with a native Japanese person. However, the limited vocabulary that I have and the limited speaking that I have, she did mention yesterday that I sounded more like a native speaker. Now, that was really interesting. LSD does open up your mind more. I think I mean, I can't really explain exactly what it does, but let's just take a look at the 1960s with artists, especially I'm talking about musical artists using LSD. And in particular, let's talk about the Beatles. I think it expanded their creativity in a way that we can't even, like, still can't even imagine. I mean, if you look at what they did once they started using psychedelic drugs and the way their music changed and their albums were just, starting with maybe people, I guess you could argue that Rubber Soul and Revolver were like the beginning of the psychedelic era for the Beatles. But then when Sergeant Pepper came out, it was just an entirely different psychedelic experience. And I would attribute that to, Lennon and McCartney, I guess, using, and I guess all of them, but I'm not really sure, but using LSD for creativity and spirituality purposes. I mean, it absolutely changed the way they created. And again, is that happening with me? I don't really know because again, it's only microdosing and it's only been a few times. But my magic mushroom journey has been for close to 4 years right now. So it's really interesting. So what will I continue to use from this point on? It's really hard. It's a really good question. It's really hard to say. Right now, as we speak, right now, I feel that microdosing LSD for me is actually a better feeling. That's going to sound really weird from somebody that's been podcasting on microdosing psilocybin for close to 4 years. And I'm not, again, I'm still extremely positive about microdosing psilocybin. Don't get me wrong. I will continue that for sure. There's no question. However, right now in this little era, I guess you call it, um, I've been using the LSD, and it's a really, really positive feeling for me. It really is. One of the problems I see though is, let's face it, if you've been microdosing psilocybin or using psilocybin or magic mushrooms in any way, let's face it, they're very easy to find. I mean, again, I don't talk about sourcing here. I go into it a little bit on my Patreon page. If you want to go there, we can talk about. But I don't source at all. You know that I don't talk about it in most places. But it is fairly easy to get. It is, if you know, you know. It's pretty easy to get. There's zero problem finding magic mushrooms, psilocybin, zero problem whatsoever. LSD, since again I don't have the experience that I have with magic mushrooms, it could create a little bit more of a challenge. But I think it is out there. You have to be careful. But if it's something that you really want, I think it's not an issue. And again, we probably could discuss that a little bit more on Patreon if you want. Am I happy I did it? Absolutely 100%. Again, it took me 69 years of my life, 69 plus years of my life, but I'm reaching my 70th birthday pretty soon, and it took me that long to try something that, let's face it, I was in high school and college, I was afraid of that substance. And even up till now, I just thought it was mysterious, it was weird, it was possibly dangerous. Now looking back, it's none of those. I think it's actually a very, very safe substance if it's used responsibly and correctly. Very, very safe. But back in high school, I remember I had this guy in my class. We came into class one day and he was no longer there. And come to find out, a short time later, he had, I guess, taken too large of a dose of LSD or something happened during a trip, and he wound up in a mental health facility for quite some time, and that scared the shit out of me. I mean, I never wanted to be in that position in that situation. That's why I always stuck to the things that I felt were very very safe, and that was again some cannabis use in high school. Of course, in high school, a little bit of alcohol, and college as well, but nothing more than that. I was always the guy that turned down things when I was offered stronger things. I just didn't want my life to go in that direction. That was a very dangerous direction. I never wanted that. However, looking back now, I think that psychedelics, when used responsibly, are very safe and also very, very life changing in a positive way. That's what I've learned over the past 4 years. A very, very positive way. So I'm going to keep experimenting. I'm going to share with you what I find. Let's see if things take a different turn or an interesting turn or whatever. Um, if you would have asked me 4 years ago when I started microdosing magic mushrooms, Dr. Dave, would you ever consider LSD? I would say no. I'm not touching that. I'm not going near that. But it was more out of ignorance because I just didn't really know what it was like, what it was about. And again, I thought it was something dangerous. But learning more about psychedelics over the 4 years, I find that they're really not dangerous. Again, when used responsibly, I will say when used responsibly, they're not dangerous at all. In fact, they're probably some of the safest substances out. If you want to get into like something that's mind altering, they're probably some of the safest substances out there. That's what I would say. I do want to ask you a tremendous favor, if you would. Well, first of all, if you like what you're hearing, if you want to continue, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to this show because I really want to get the word out to more people all over this planet. There are people that are just hurting. There are people that don't know what to do. There are people that don't know where to turn, and they're just feeling not great every single day or almost every day. And I want this information to get out to many more people. So if you could like, share, and subscribe, that would be really appreciated. Comment below if you're on YouTube, comment below and let me know if you've ever experimented with LSD, if you plan to, what your experience was. Tell me a little bit about that. I would love to hear from you on that. And if I haven't asked this in a long time, but if you could go on Spotify or Apple and give me a 5-star review. If you believe that this show is worth 5 stars, and I hope you do think that. But if you could go on Spotify and or Apple and help the show by giving it a 5-star review, and if you have a few extra seconds, write a little written review if you can. Just let other people know what you think of the show. I've got show notes, really good links in the show notes of every episode. My website is Microdose U. microdoseu.com. That's microdose with the letter U on the end of it.com. And a little bit earlier in this episode, I was sharing with you my experience with microdosing LSD and getting acupuncture done. And it's a really, really interesting experience. And a very short time ago, my next to latest episode, I talked a lot about microdosing and acupuncture. And if you want to hear or watch more about that, it's right here on YouTube. And if you're listening to this on audio, I'll put it in the show notes. It's a great show. I'm Dr. Dave, Microdose U. Catch you on the next show. I do love you.